It's important to be an interested adult, to create an environment. Okay, I am someone you can come and talk to if you have worries. We can start having, like every Monday, we will practice these techniques that we know nowadays more and more of that help people cope with stress. We should actually every day do something to balance our cortisol levels. It's a shame that we don't teach these techniques to young people.
What can we learn from youth and youth workers? How can we support each other and become a better version of ourselves? This is the Source of Growth podcast, created by a Hungarian NGO, the Academy of Experience. I am Arpad Barnai, the host of the podcast. In the second part of our conversation with Elina Marjamäki, we talked about stress management and emotion regulation for young people, adults, and about mental health skills for youth workers. We also explored the usefulness of resource-oriented approach and the importance of appreciation generally and in the work context. At the end of the episode, we talked about hope and the importance of meaningful interactions, and we closed our conversation by pointing to the materials and resources created by MIELI. I really hope that with these two episodes we spark your interest in their work. If you are interested in it, I really recommend you to have a look at their website. You can find a link to it in the description of the episode. In our association, we are also trying to balance this because we are not therapists. We are doing only youth work.
Yeah.
At the same time, we work with disadvantaged youth who have for sure challenging backgrounds and stories.
Yes.
And if we have our programs, we only have maybe camps or programs for them. So it's not an invitation to share troubling stories. But if we do our work well, we very often end up having conversations with youth. And then they start to talk about stuff and how to talk about stuff. If you're an interested adult and safe, then they start to talk to you. And there's a big question, how to practice empathy, what to do with it, actually. I talked to Asa Moon and she said, actually, she thinks it's not a task to learn empathy. The task is more not to lose empathy. So it's like you have some ability in you, and how do you practice using it in these interactions? So the question, one side of my question, if it makes sense, would be like, okay, what do you do with empathy? It might be not an easy concept to sell to teachers, youth workers, like, okay, should be empathic. And then if there's a real issue, like, okay, but still, does it help?
Yeah.
And the hope is the other part. So first, let's go with the empathy. Yeah.
And this empathy doesn't mean that if somebody needs concrete help, it doesn't mean that, okay, I don't give that. I don't say that. Maybe, that there's okay, if there are some, for example, crime has happened. Okay, I can support and I can help you. We go together to make this, report the crime and try to fight for the solution for it. The empathy doesn't mean that you don't help if you know that there is a place for victims of crime. We also run this national helpline for crime victims. Maybe it's just not to be indifferent, not to not care. But at the same time, of course, if you have a lot of young people who have a lot of difficult life situations, the youth workers, they need support also, because that creates a lot of anxiety to know about harsh conditions that some young people face in their lives.
Oh, yeah.
And that is also one of the content in our training sessions, that we also need to support youth workers to support young people. And for example, our volunteers, they have this work guidance once a month, and it is required. You cannot choose not to enter because you have to let difficult stories and difficult emotions out also. You need the support. And of course, the better the youth workers do their work, they are trusted adults. They face a lot of difficult things and concerns, or even crimes that young people have faced.
Oh, yeah.
They also need some place to talk about these with some other professional maybe. I don't know if, are you familiar with this concept of work guidance or work counseling that many professionals should have? Like they should regularly go talk to somebody who is not a therapist, but this work guidance?
I know that in Hungary, quite a lot of work needs some kind of supervision. It's called supervision, but it's this kind of support of the professional,
Yeah.
and not just supervising. It's support, and also in some cases it's not available. So in some cases it's colleagues who are good at supporting others, or external, but not that kind of supervisor or professional still could come and facilitate this kind of supporting conversation and listen, as you mentioned.
And like when we talk about these mental health skills, it's not just children and young people skills we talk about. It's also us as adults. We can learn these stress management skills, emotional skills also.
I think it's a parallel learning process, that what I'm maybe teaching or helping the youth learn, I'm learning as well. In my case, I find these stress reducing techniques very useful in some cases, or even just recognizing symptoms of stress helped me also notice that actually I'm trying to hold it together. I'm listening to tough stories. I'm experiencing similar processes that the young people. I need maybe the same. We are humans, so let's do that.
Yeah, that's a good thing to mention, that these are really important for us adults too.
I wanted to get to this topic of, if I'm just listening to someone, that's already a service. If I don't want to give advice, that's already a good thing for quite a lot of situations. And at the same time, there are these new understandings. You mentioned techniques and psychoeducation, so helping adolescents and youth understand what's going on with them and normalize it. It has some element of giving information and teaching part. So how do you balance this, that I'm just listening, I'm not giving advice, and still I'm educating you on this positive mental health?
It's important to be an interested adult, to create an environment. Okay, I am someone you can come and talk to if you have worries. Preferably when you can come to talk to me when the worries are still this small, so we can work with them together and not wait until they have escalated into an enormous, complex source of problems. But I can plan my work according to the needs of young people. If I see a lot of anxiety going on, anxiety is a common thing with today's young people. Part of it is because they are clever. They are more clever today than ever before. And if you are a clever person, intelligent, you are anxious about environment, climate change. We also, by the way, have the one project for climate. Okay, if I see this around, I can proactively, we can start having, like every Monday, we will practice these techniques that we know nowadays more and more of, that help people cope with stress. We should actually every day do something to balance our cortisol levels. It's a shame that we don't teach these techniques to young people, like breathing techniques. We know more and more from many studies about vagus nerve, how it affects our minds, and how we can, with just simple breathing techniques, we can calm our minds. Why not tell them to these young people? Let them experience the relaxed body. Relaxation techniques, they are really great. They make you feel really great. So we can have this proactively. Or how to talk with yourself. What is your inner voice telling you every day? Is it like mocking you? Like in many of us, it's because we are human. We tend to have negative inner voice, like always criticizing ourselves. What kind of sentences are good for us? How to encourage yourself? We can have that. We can proactively, like, okay, this Friday we explore this idea, and this is a tool for you.
So you mean like, okay, you provide, as MIELI, you provide a lot of ideas, materials for people, also psychoeducational materials, like the poster behind you, for example. That's the mental health.
Okay,
yeah. And you promote the idea that, like, being in touch with the youth I work with the group I work with, and seeing what's needed, you can propose these ideas. Okay, I learned that this might help. Let's start to experiment with this. And fine-tune it and adapt it to your reality, like which tool you want to use or how do you find useful this breathing technique, and at the same time still keep space for listening to them and being with them. Is it what you propose?
Yeah, of course, that is probably the listening, and being an interested adult is probably the most important thing that we can do. Oftentimes, maybe we don't listen so carefully. We just pass by because many people are so busy in today's work life. Busy, busy, busy. We don't stop and think and ask, how are things going? How are you? Just give a little encouraging remark that might be really beneficial to many people.
All what we talk about was brought up in the context of youth work and education, and seems to be very applicable to workplaces. And you mentioned something that you have a program for workplaces, a work environment. What do you do there?
And this is one example where we can find that mental health is not only an individual issue. It is the issue of structures. They either weaken us or they support us. So how do we make workplaces the places where people's mental health is being supported? We have a whole unit here, training and providing material for companies who want to create mentally friendly workplaces. That's what they do. And there is a lot of demand for that because, these mental health problems, we can think about youth work and this and that and that. But actually, this is a really big economical issue. We spend way too much money dealing with mental health problems. Companies and business owners, they lose euros, they lose dollars, they lose a lot of money because of mental health problems, because of the exhaustion in the workplace, because of the people not getting their potential out. If you think about this as a soft issue, it's not. This is a tough and hard economical issue also. In Finland, 11 billion euros goes to mental health problems, dealing with mental health problems. And I think in Europe level, if I remember correctly, it's like 400 billion. We have to think about it also with these hard numbers. But it's really difficult because the business is based on short-term gains, quartal thinking. If I invest in January on mental health of my employees, do I see the results in April? No, maybe not. But do I see the results in next January? Probably. But I don't have the patience to wait because I need the gains now, today.
And I think it's sports and workplaces similar in this sense. I want performance, I want tasks be done. And at the same time, stress and mental health questions or issues affect if we can do this. And also at the same time, there is this bigger question like, do we want to be a workplace who don't care about people? It's not a good place to be. So how do you sell this idea to leaders and companies? What would you say to that?
Yes, maybe giving some examples of successful companies that have taken this approach that they want to support and provide good environment for mental health. And this leadership skills, it's really essential for mental health. It's what we have noticed also when I talk about schools. It's the principals of the schools are very influential for supporting this understanding of promoting mental health. The same thing is with leadership in the workplaces. And we know how difficult it is to have good leadership. I have my daughter is 21. She's now in between school and studies. So she's working in a cafeteria. And from her, I hear a lot of concrete examples of mental health, healthy approach to young employees, or the opposite of supportive. So it's not, you don't have to do so magical things. It's really a matter of small everyday encounters with your employees. Do you listen to their ideas? Do you give them a voice? Do you encourage them, especially with young people? Do you give positive feedback to them? Do you allow mistakes? or is there a rage after every mistake? The first time she went to work in a cafeteria, the first day she dropped the tray with full of glasses. Her boss said, okay, that's fine. Everybody does that in the beginning. So she told me at home that how she felt relieved, how much more eager she went next day to work. Instead of having this shouting and, oh, you stupid dumb ass and this and that, that would have created the seed for some anxiety problem or something. And these are the small adjustments we can make. But then, of course, we can make company policies that we have early support for employees. We have stress management programs or possibility to take breaks, and we provide a quiet room to take 3-minute breathing break. It's a really interesting question because there are a lot of need in the workplace, and young people are also smart in today's world. They don't accept the same thing what I accepted when I was young. I took it for granted that nobody gives me positive feedback. It was common procedure that everybody was just shouting at when you made mistakes. And today's young people, they don't accept that. They don't want to be shouted at, and they don't want to be treated negatively.
That's such a good thing to hear. It's a good development or progress, I would say. And also appreciation is to say it out loud. I think it's a question of like transgenerational change that happens, and admitting the fact that, appreciation is needed. And we all need it. Even if I was raised differently,
exactly.
It doesn't mean that I don't need it.
And we should do it every day to give some appreciation to our colleagues or friends or relatives.
Just stopping here for a while. We, Academy of Experience, we are an NGO. We are not a big company, but still what you said, I think it matters a lot for us because we also want to do the job. We see the signs of stress, cumulative stress also, because we care about what we do, and learning about how we lead ourselves and how we organize our work and how to have a workplace that uses the same knowledge that we use with youth is something to consider. We are kind of trading this. And at the same time, if I'm thinking about the workplace, I need to remind myself still. So in other places where people do different lines of work, they might remind themselves even more because they are not working with people, maybe. So that's one thing. And getting back to youth work, I just want to ask about, if I'm a youth worker, what should I think of? What is the content of what you think is a good material or resource for me? What does supporting or promoting positive mental health, what is it made of? You mentioned emotional skills and relationships. So what can I picture there? What is this whole area of
the mental health skills, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, we can start with this poster behind me. You have it in Hungarian also.
Yeah.
It's the most boring thing, the daily habits and daily routines. How do we promote the idea of sleep and rest and nutrition and food and relationships and hobbies and exercise and motion and relaxation skills? How do we increase the understanding or make interesting conversations with young people? What do they think about, for example, the importance of sleep? In Finland, for example, the lack of sleep is a big issue among young people. And it's also during adolescence, the sleep is really challenging.
Oh, yeah.
Because the hormonal things and the brain growth, there's one comparison, like if you put a teenager into bed at 11 o'clock and expect them to fall asleep, it is the same as an adult would go to sleep at 7 p.m. And no adults would fall asleep at 7 p.m. And when you wake the teenager up at 8 o'clock, it's the same thing as an adult would wake up at 3 a.m. Yeah, so we have to, with this, we struggle a lot to put our teenagers so that they gain enough sleep. So we have to have these interesting conversations with them because there is a lot of new knowledge also, interesting knowledge about effects of sleep. It does affect immediately on your mental health. And it puts pressure on your mental health. If there's a lack of sleep or lack of relaxation during the days. So these daily routines are quite important, and they also empower young people because you can do different choices in your day-to-day life that helps you maintain and support your mental health.
You say things like, I can imagine that it's not only talk about sleep as it is, but what habits of mine improve my sleep or decrease the quality of sleep. Like, for example, consuming beverages with caffeine or the watching screen before I...
the social media, TikTok, the whole night. Snapchat going on.
A lot of lights around me. So this kind of stuff, like you talk about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Do I get it right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's the baseline. But then, of course, one interesting thing is this, this self-appreciation, self-knowledge, and your strength-based training. Why not explore that idea with young people? Because a lot of times within youth work, young people, they show different types of strengths that don't come up during the school day. So they spend their whole day in school and feeling like, oh, I'm not good enough, because a lot of us are not good enough in the school. And then they come to youth facilities and they have an interesting project that they have to make. A lot of them show a lot of creative thinking, a lot of stamina and different kinds of strengths that don't show up in school. So how to make young people aware of them, of those strengths. And that requires a lot of, we are aware. Okay, hey, that was really clever or a new idea that I couldn't have come up. We have to also respect their brain because their brain is more powerful than adults' brain. It's not like their ideas are not so fixed. We adults, we are victims of habits. Every day I want to have my cup of coffee.
You know what? Like you mentioned earlier, I can relate to it very much. That listening is a big thing in itself, active listening. And now you mentioned something that you also referred to, putting different lenses on or listening with a different mindset. I'm not listening as a youth worker teacher who looks for errors to correct or looks for advice to give, but I'm witnessing resources and witnessing strength of youth. This is also a habit in itself. And I need to practice it maybe on my own or with my colleagues. If I want to notice small signs of resources or resources in challenging situations, and especially resources of youth who might have very troubling behavior sometimes, because I can get upset, but still shift my focus back to what I see as a resource also in their behavior. So that's something very, very important. I needed to practice this, especially meeting a group of youth who have some issues. Tuning my focus helped me a lot to be there with more appreciation and joy as a youth worker as well, because it's more fun because I see the resources around. Do you learn from solution-focused practitioners on this? Because it sounds like something coming from positive psychology and solution-focused approach, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah, one good resource for this is this VIA Character Institute. They have developed this character strength test also that we can do with young people. And the idea is that we all possess these strengths. Yeah, there's a lot of information about that, focusing on strengths and noticing that as a habit of spotting the strengths, as a hobby for adults.
That's good.
It's a new hobby. I am spotting so many strengths here. And this is also really important because, like you said, that was very nicely put. And oftentimes many of them, young people, they have not heard positive remarks. Especially if there have been issues or they're like not this typical easygoing young people. And we have to remember that it's not so easy also to hear somebody is complimenting me. I'm like, oh my God, no, not me. That's why we should do it more often. And then there is one interesting idea of behind all this is the growth mindset versus fixed mindset. You know, this psychologist, Carol Dweck, who has written the whole book about the mindset. Do we see young people from the fixed mindset point of view or from the growth mindset point of view, and like always practice like this strength spotting from the growth mindset point of view, not to say like you are this and that like an adjective. I see that you have worked and practiced hard, and I see that you have a lot of grit, that you have been persistent, and this kind of like focusing on those skills that we want to enhance.
Well, I like this very much that you combine these two, because what I see quite often that in eagerness of appreciating, it can quickly go into labeling. So this fixed mindset stuff. And it can also pose a kind of stress in itself that if they say I'm talented, I'm afraid that after a while it will be discovered that I'm actually not.
Exactly. This is why we have to, as adults, also to really think about and to say about the real thing, because young people also, they really sense if you are just saying that's not true.
What you remind us now is that doing this more in a growth mindset way is that, okay, if I need to really focus, like really focus, and also point out small stuff or things, how they do things where the resources are shown. So it's not about them as a label, but how they did things. And what's also missing, and really like your comment that especially youth living through hard times, just the effort is not appreciated quite a lot of times. And it should be, because some people hang in there. Some kids just go to school in spite of all the adversities they have.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I would be able to do that.
Exactly.
Just being there, like just seeing that, okay, you're trying and you're making an effort and it's appreciated.
Yeah, this is a really, really good point what you mentioned. And this I would like to see so much more, that we would not see and look at these young people in harsh conditions from the lens of weakness, instead of through this courage and grit and persistence, and despite all the hardships that would throw us all other people down on the ground, you come up every day and you show up. We should really like validate this effort. Too seldom they get this validation. Instead, we point out the weaknesses or something that they are not. Yeah, that was a very, very important
point. Yeah, strength-based approaches. Like you mentioned, via character strength, for example.
And you know what? Like these kids, they oftentimes they themselves don't realize how strong they are, because they are always looked through the lens of weaknesses or lack of something.
I wanted to ask, you mentioned that there's a lot of change in adolescence in itself. Developmental crisis can be like, okay, I used to be someone with some kind of resources that were enough, but now it's a new stage of life. I maybe have more responsibility. I try out new social roles. So immediately I can end up having this question of identity versus role confusion or whatever. So adolescence is a big thing, and my body is changing, my mind is changing.
Yeah.
And if this is not enough, you can also have these other types of life crises like divorce and other types of happenings, and also traumatic events creating crises. This can happen in life of youth. So what would you say? How should we be present in life of adolescents or youth who have not only these developmental questions in their lives, but having different types of crises? As youth workers, how should we be present? I believe that if you work with youth workers, they have these questions. And where do you point them to, or what's your take on that?
I think it's important to always know that there is hope. And maybe as a youth worker, many young people who have had difficult during adolescence, and then they have sort of come through those hardship or hard times and show up as adults, as totally capable and confident and happy adults. These stories are really important to also pass on to young people. There was one study done about these hopeful stories that we tell young people, how they empower them and also prevent them from developing from depression or anxiety disorders. So we should always have like some inspiring story about, and not as a diminishing way, some examples of
Like people who have gone through similar challenges,
yeah.
maybe.
I always have like some examples in my lectures about, I tell, okay, this person had this. Then he met some like interested adult and who he turned out. And then everybody's just wondering like, who the hell is that? And then comes out, okay, some famous author who is now very popular in Finland. So during adolescence, he had these challenges. I don't know if I can answer some great answer to this, but hope is an enormously powerful thing because people have not survived if we haven't felt hope and optimism. And the ways we create hope or find the motivation within young people, it's challenging, but it's also fun because you can always be like an explorer and you never know what affects. We don't know how our words affect somebody. Outside, you might see that nothing has happened, and inside, there might be like an explosion of ideas like, what? I can be all that.
Or it can be that, well, like you mentioned, if I'm not familiar with experiencing appreciation or validation of my strength, it might be that I need time to digest it. And maybe, I don't know, 2 days later, a week later, I just start to feel that, yeah, maybe they are right. I don't know. I see this also happening. Wow.
Yeah.
So it's a new seed of thought, maybe.
Exactly. That's the good thing. Seed of thought. Like when we plant the tomato seeds, now this spring coming, so everybody wants to plant all these tomatoes. You are planting the tomato seed and then you are watering it, okay? You don't see the growth, but you are not hurry. Now
Yeah.
come on now, grow up, you stupid tomato. But instead you pour the water, maybe you give it some nutrition or something, and you wait. And then in the summertime, you have all these beautiful tomatoes. But this is the same thing with what you said. You plant the seeds and you water them, give more nutrition. Think about yourself as a gardener.
Yeah. And I liked what you said about hope. I think it's a good thing and challenging to mention still that what should I do? Maybe if there's a bigger challenge or crisis in life of youth, I want to run for something sure. In most cases, these are complex situations. So I most likely I won't be able to fix all of it. Maybe I have someone to turn to, someone to ask for help. If there's a crime, I report it. If there's some issue to solve, maybe I have a service that I can recommend.
Exactly.
But still, the whole life situation might be complex. And you mentioned hope and also empowering youth finding their motivation. So not mine, but their motivation. So it's a tough one. What do you do, or what do you suggest in? I know it's a big question, but still, how to find or create hope there? What do you see there working? If it's a challenging situation in life of youth, I'm there. How do I find or create hope?
For first, the words that you use, they are really powerful and they have a powerful effect. So we have to always look out for how we talk. Do we talk about in an encouraging way, or are we pessimistic? All know people who want to create scenarios that everything is doomed. You'll be aware of what kinds of words do you use. Are you more optimist or pessimist? And then also we have to sometimes accept that we cannot change everything. We have things we can do, but for example, there are many things we cannot do anything about it. And that sometimes we have to also accept the boundaries of our work. There are so many stories about how people who have written their autobiographies, how important it has been for them that they have met somebody who has shown the interest or has said something encouraging to them. There is one university professor in USA who lived in harsh conditions. You can read about his story in This chimpanzee researcher, Jane Goodall, she has written a book called Hope. And there's a story about this university professor who, during adolescence, he was so poor and had lost his parents and lived alone in a very, very harsh conditions, actually. And he was about to kill himself.
Mm-hmm.
And before he did that, he remembered his teacher who earlier that day had patted on his shoulder empathetically and said to him, "You will get through this." And that prevented him this idea.
Wow.
When he remembered that in that critical moment from taking his own life. And he became a university professor. You can read about his story and find him online in Jane Goodall's Book of Hope.
Thank you for this recommendation. Wow. Well, it really touched me, like, to listen.
And you know what happened? When this university professor met his teacher later, many years later, his teacher didn't even remember that. He had no idea. We never know how we affect each other, but we can make sure that we don't affect negatively.
That's so important. What you remind me too is I just talked to a professional in Hungary about childhood trauma and developmental trauma and these kind of topics. And she highlighted the importance of meaningful interactions that don't have to be, if I'm a youth worker or a teacher, it doesn't have to be long. Even if a therapy session is not all the same quality, it's a lot of micro interactions. And if there's good quality micro interaction, that's very, very meaningful. So that was a good example of that. Thank you for this. And also you said one important thing, if I'm a very positive, optimistic, encouraging youth worker, I experienced this. I had this feedback from youth who were going through rough times. I might seem someone who is crazy. You don't see this is all bad. What's wrong with you? Or someone who is not honest. That's the other thing. Like you don't say, no, it's not true. Well, I say you don't say it for real. And you mentioned accepting our boundaries. So knowing that there are things that we cannot do anything about can help you be seen as someone who is honest. So when I'm optimistic, I'm really optimistic because I know that we cannot do anything about that, but I'm still optimistic about you. That's something important in what you said. Yeah, thank you for that too. A lot of things there.
Yeah, and thank you for this micro interactions term. I will take that into my work also.
I'm happy for that.
Good quality micro interactions. That's great.
As we wrap up, I want to ask you if there's any question that I didn't ask and we should mention or just say some words about anything related to mental health and mental health in youth work or MIELI.
I'm really happy that this idea of mental health promotion is also increasing in the world, and there is more and more understanding about the possibilities of mental health promotion. We have to just keep on doing the job and also addressing the importance of this work that all these professionals do with children and young people. And we should fight to increase the appreciation and increase the salary levels and work conditions, etc. So to show the appreciation, because that work provides the successful nations, like businesses, etc.
Oh yeah, it's a strong basis, very strong basis, and investment in that.
And the stronger that is, the less we have problems, and that's really a fact.
That's good. And if people get interested in your work, MIELI, where can they find you, or with what can they find you? What can they approach you with?
Yeah, we have this website, mieli.fi, and there is English pages. It's not so extensive, but we have a lot of material in English. And we also provide our handbook for youth workers in English. You can download it as a PDF there and use it to do your own materials. And we also have this for early education, Child's Mind, translated it into English, and a lot of different kinds of material on our website if you're interested.
Very good. I saw that there are some projects there that you are about to organize. There's this interesting project, Let's Talk About Children. Could you tell a bit about that?
It has been going on for a long time, and I am not so familiar with it. My colleagues who work with families and young children, they are promoting it. The idea is to Also to focus on strengths of the families who have maybe some difficulties or mental health problems, or who are maybe used to being viewed as a problem. And it's a tool for the professionals in kindergarten or in schools to have these discussions with parents about strengths of the families.
Wow.
I think they are launching some EU project around it. It has been shown to decrease the need of this child interventions, when you take the child
protection services.
Yeah, if a community like a city has taken this and really incorporated it into the action of workers in the whole city, so they have been able to show that this parental support in the everyday stages decreases the need for child protection later in the life. It has some good statistical results of their work.
Okay, I will check it out later.
Yeah, because it's really a practical approach also. None of this is so difficult. And then because it's not so difficult, it is so difficult, because we want complex solutions to complex problems. And these are quite simple solutions to complex problems. So we don't want to accept that.
But it's so good. Thank you for highlighting this, because it's complex problems and it's not the NASA or science institutes that needs to work out something we don't know how to do, but these things can be done, and this is known to work. Wow. Thank you for this conversation. Really, it was very inspirational.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast. If you found our work useful and inspiring, you can follow us by clicking on the links in the description. If you would like to support us, you can also do that by giving us feedback, recommending our work to others, or sending donations. As an NGO, we are grateful for any type of support. Take care, live well. We hope to see you again.